And we are live, I hope. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, January 28th. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 4-game NBA slate. We got just a general small slate today, which is kind of unappealing, but we're here. We're breaking it down. Most of these teams are on a back-to-back, so we don't have nearly enough information. But we're here, and we're breaking it down anyway. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. What's up, everybody? How'd it go for you guys yesterday? Jeremy Savage, top 100 on both sites. For some reason, First Kings is back to let us know that Klay Thompson is a former Maverick. First Kings, for some reason, went into the comment section of yesterday's video to let us know that Klay Thompson will one day be a Wizard. So that's a thing. That's a thing. Oh, boy. Back again today with more nonsense. I'll give you like 30 seconds, then it's going. Drew Stern, 5th in the main, 3.5 points shy of 100K. Man, that stinks. But hey, fifth will work. It's frustrating. 5th will work. Needed Dylan Brooks. Decent shooting day yesterday out of Dylan Brooks. 36 real points, 10 threes. Shout out Al Horford. Shout out Bogdan Bogdanovic. Sneaky teams, man. Sneaky teams. Horford scratched. Bogdanovic scratched. AD, 42 points, 23 rebounds. Jokic, 33, 14, and 12. Sabonis with 21 points and 22 rebounds. Insane. Couple wild stat lines yesterday, man. Wild stat lines. 2 triple-doubles, Sabonis and Jokic. Whole bundle of double-doubles. We want to break this bad boy down? Paul, if you're referencing Bogdanovic, that they did not sit him for trade purposes. AD not in the winning lineup. That's not surprising. Faded Horford felt good only to be let down by Bogdan. Yeah. You don't normally get 2 of those in one night. That's unfortunate for everybody involved. All right, let's break this bad boy down. Look, there's a bunch of places that we really can't talk about. Like 5 of the 8 teams for today are on a back-to-back. We have an injury report for the Sixers, the Blazers, and the Warriors. And that's it. So we'll give it our best shot. All right. Goodbye. Last warning, Kings. Otherwise, you're going away permanently. I don't need your nonsense. The Los Angeles Lakers are 4.5 point favorites in Philadelphia. 217.5 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate. This is the lowest pace on today's slate. I have this game 3 possessions behind the 2 10 o'clock games and 6.5 possessions behind the Houston-Atlanta game. So, Lakers, obviously on a back-to-back, and it's not just that they're on a back-to-back, it's that we really don't know who's playing for them. Yesterday, we had no Gabe Vincent and no Rui Hachimura. Hachimura had missed the previous game as well. So I have these guys in. Obviously, if they're out, we expect more minutes out of Dorian Finney-Smith and Dalton Connect and Shake Milton. But for right now, We're showing some ownership to LeBron. We're showing more than 2.5x LeBron's ownership, 38% right now to Anthony Davis. And then you've got Christie around 10, Reeves, Rui, Dorian Finney-Smith all around 5. Now, as I see it, I think LeBron is the best option here for the Lakers. A lot of it just has to do with position. Center is just easier to fill, and we've got some interesting spots today. Not that I don't like AD. Let me be clear here. He looks awesome. But I have LeBron grading out slightly better individually. Power forward eligible. 10K is not fun, but it's a 4-game slate, so raw points matter. Position matters as well. But you can see, and we had the questions yesterday about like booms and target scores. Here's a perfect example. Now, LeBron today, projected for about 48 fantasy points. 42% boom, but his target score is only 50. So you don't need too much over the projection today from LeBron to feel good about it. I think he's a bit under-owned in this first run of ownership. I would argue that AD is a little bit over-owned in this first run. I mean, we have Dame on this slate. We've got Steph on this slate. We've got Giannis on this slate. We potentially have Trae Young. We've got Maxey. We've got, Şengün as like a per minute guy. So, like, there's a lot of dudes out there. That ownership feels just a hair too high on AD. I would argue Christie should be around 15. I'd say Austin Reeves should be in that 10 to 15 range. $3,700 Dorian Finney-Smith should probably be more than 4% owned. I don't hate that for value. Now, maybe it becomes a little bit more obvious if Rui ends up out again. And I know DFS isn't exactly the best per minute dude in the world. 3,700 power forward, on a 4-gamer, that value's not bad. Look at the target score. $3,700 player needs 23.5 fantasy points today. That's not crazy. 23.5 fantasy points in the 26 minutes that I gave him would be a 0.9 fantasy point per minute rate. It's not. That wouldn't be insane. That's all I'm saying. If I'm ranking the Lakers, it would be LeBron, AD, Christie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reeves, and Rui. That's how I would see it right now. But we need to know what's going on with the Lakers, because between Rui and Vincent being out yesterday, this is still a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on it. So I'm sure they're going to have either one of them will probably have a questionable tag. Obviously, if one is out and the other is in, giant bump to the dude that's in. And you would see a trickle-down effect to the rest of the team. But this is team number 1 of guys we don't know who's playing or not. DFS Temp said, I had a lot of Horford and Bogdan. Bad day yesterday. Yeah, that makes sense. That's not fun. Ken, good morning. All right, let's go from the Lakers to the Sixers. The good news is we have a injury report for the Sixers. The bad news is it is this. Andre Drummond out. Joel Embiid out. Paul George out. Caleb Martin out. KJ Martin out. Jared McCain out. Yabusele in. So as of right now, the Sixers are the most owned team on the slate. Best I could tell, they have 11 active guys. And we are getting close to 70% ownership to Ricky Council IV. We're getting right around 30 on Kelly Oubre and Gershon Yabusele. We're getting 25 to Justin Edwards. We're getting about 15 to Eric Gordon and Tyrese Maxey. We got to start with the best play here. He's the highest owned guy on the slate, and by all accounts, I'm expecting him to be in that top couple owned guys all day. Ricky Council, small forward, power forward eligible, 4,300. The minutes are just going to be there. I don't really see a scenario where they're not. They just don't have the bodies at this point. We've seen him get some starts in the past. Played 29 minutes, 36 minutes, and 35 minutes in 3 starts over the past few weeks. Assuming he gets around 30 minutes, I got him 36% optimal, 51% boom, and his target score is his projection. When you get a guy that's a 50-50 shot to be good enough to be in a winning lineup, that's when you're going to see the ownership. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer today on Ricky Council. He looks amazing. He looks amazing. But we don't stop there. Like Kelly Oubre playing 36 minutes a night, 6,200, shooting guard eligible, 30% owned. I got him 20% optimal, 40% boom. More than deserves 30% ownership. I would argue Tyrese Maxey at 9,800 is a bit under-owned. 17% ownership. I have him 18% optimal, 42% chance of 49.5 fantasy points. So I would like, I want all the Ricky Council. I'm happy to have 30% of Oubre. I'd like to have more than 20% of Tyrese Maxey. Yabu's in an interesting spot. He's 6K. He's power forward center. So the flexibility is great. The minutes are going to be there barring any foul trouble or injury because they just don't have any other real big bodies. They've got Adam Bona as the backup center. And then, in theory, Pete Nance can get out there, but they don't ever really use him. But, 25 to 30% ownership on Yabu makes some sense. It's a slate that's weird when it's a 4-gamer. This is slow, defensive oriented, lowest total. And Eric Gordon can still be in 10 to 15% of lineups and deserve it. That's what we have right now. And then Justin Edwards, 25% owned, 3,800. He's been getting real minutes. Got small forward, power forward eligibility. As I look at it, he probably should be in that 20% owned range. I think it's completely reasonable that the Sixers are the most owned team. I've got them with the highest aggregate optimal score, and I have them with the 3rd highest aggregate boom rate. This looks damn good to me. I don't really think that you want to go to Bona or Reggie Jackson or Kyle Lowry or any of those guys. I don't think that'll be as helpful. But, man, I didn't want to get to the Sixers today. And unfortunately, it seems like that's what we need to do. It's just not fun because they all stink. They all stink. I mean, Maxey obviously doesn't stink, but, the rest of them stink. But if we're ranking the Sixers, we got Ricky Council, easily number 1, not close. Kelly Oubre 2, Tyrese Maxey 3, Yabu 4. Shit. Eric Gordon 5, Justin Edwards 6. Probably not paying close attention to the rest of those guys. Let's go on to game number 2. The Houston Rockets, fresh off of the big dub yesterday against the Celtics. Shout out Amen Thompson. Rockets are 6-point favorites in Atlanta, 226 total. And I'll let you guys know now, we obviously don't have injury reports for Houston or Atlanta, but with everybody in that could be in, like Jalen Johnson is very clearly out, but I got Trey in. I've got the line right on the dot. I've got Houston minus 5.9. The market is at -6. So keep that in mind for context, at least. We don't know whether or not Tari Eason is going to play this back-to-back. Obviously, he had been out for a while and limited. Cam Whitmore missed yesterday's game, so we don't know his status. I have them both in for right now. If I'm being honest, what makes the most sense to me would be Cam Whitmore playing and Tari Eason sitting, at which point we're going to like Cam Whitmore even more than we do right now. But we need that information. Amin Thompson's currently pulling 25% ownership as the most owned Houston Rocket. Tari Eason's at 10. Whitmore's north of 20. And Steven Adams is at 15. Now that Steven Adams ownership won't stay at 15. So ignore that for right now. But Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Şengün, all sub 10%. This is a pace up spot for Houston. Those guys, this ownership is going to get completely redistributed. Van Vliet, Green, Brooks, Şengün are all going to be more owned than what I'm showing. Amin Thompson probably will be 20 to 25% owned. He looks like my favorite Houston Rocket. And however we end up getting that Eason Whitmore situation, one of those guys is going to look good. But if Whitmore gets 20 minutes at 3,800, shooting guard, small forward eligible, without Tari Eason blocking him, he's going to be one of the premier value plays of the day. But Houston looks great here against Atlanta. I mean, this is a bad Atlanta defense. It's a fast-paced matchup for the Rockets. This is the fastest game on the slate. I think Houston looks like the best team. I got them with the highest boom. Got them with the third highest optimal. But they're half as owned as Philly. Like, Amin Thompson looks really good. If Fred VanVleet was really 6% owned, you should have 3x that. If Jalen Green's 9, you should have 2x that. If Dylan Brooks is 4, you should have 5x that. If Şengün is 7, you should have 20. Tari Eason's ownership, Whitmore's ownership looks fine. Adams will definitely go away throughout the day. That's just an early morning quirk. But this is an awesome spot for Houston. And maybe we get lucky and somebody else sits and we have even more value here. But Amin Thompson looks like the best option. Point guard, small forward, 8K. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. He's playing massive minutes every night. What else can we possibly say? He's just amazing. He's amazing. Get him in your lineups. Ranking it right now. Amin Thompson, Şengün, Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Van Vliet, Whitmore, Eason. All right, Rafael De La Rosa. Josh, should Houston wait another year before making a big move, or should they go for it? Third best record in the league, second in the West, ahead of schedule. Depends on the move. I mean, to me, the answer is both. Like, it depends who you're going and getting. Like, if it's Jimmy Butler, to me, the answer is no, because it just doesn't fit your timeline. But, like, if Phoenix decides to blow it up and you trade Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, and some picks for Devin Booker, then, like, yeah, you should do it right now. It just sort of all depends on, like, the age of the guy more than anything else to me. But yeah, like, I would always be willing to make that move. They're good right now, but they can be better. All right, now the Atlanta side is going to be extra impossible to talk about because obviously they were missing a bunch of guys yesterday, and who knows what they're going to be missing today, other than Jalen Johnson's not playing today. But Trey missed yesterday. Dyson Daniels ended up missing yesterday. Bogdanovich sat. Larry Nance was out. So we're flying a little blind here. I've got Trey in. I've got Daniels in. I've got Bogdanovich in. If that's the case, we're not getting much ownership to Trey. I think that's just because he was out yesterday. Same for Dyson Daniels. They're both showing up at 1. Trey should be 15. Daniels should be 10 on a day like today. So ignore those ownership numbers for right now. That's just an artifact of the way these models work at 9 o'clock in the morning. But I like Trey. I mean, comparing him to Maxey, I'd say I have a slight lean to Maxey over Trey, but it's close. Now, obviously, Atlanta's stepping into a pace down spot and a much better defensive matchup. But interesting to compare the ownership between Trey and Maxey for the rest of this. We'll probably be able to add Damian Lillard to that list and Steph. Yeah, so think about that. We've got Dame, Steph, Maxey, and Trey as basically all the same-ish point guard options. Getting that right's tough. Now, we're showing big ownership to DeAndre Hunter right now, 35% owned. He's 5,700, small forward, power forward eligible. Assuming he plays, he kind of plays like 30 minutes a night. I got him in for 29. He would be my second most optimal hawk, and I think that ownership largely makes sense. You're looking for like 31, 32 fantasy points out of him. I think that's pretty reasonable in this spot. Okongwu pulling 15% ownership. 18 for Okongwu, 13 for Capella. I went 27-20 for their minutes. At 6,600 for Okongwu, that feels like a little bit more ownership than I like. Not that he looks bad, but that seems a little high. I think we have some better center options out there. You know, we're seeing 20% ownership to Bogdanovic. I will happily go there today. 4,800 small forward power, or shooting guard small forward eligible. Maybe a hair over owned at 20%, but I'll certainly play him. Capella looks okay. Risache honestly looks solid at small forward. 4,100, 6% owned. If I'm ranking Atlanta, because I could ignore the ownership for a second. I have these guys, like if we get everybody in, I would rank the Hawks, Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Risache, Daniels, Krejci, Capella, Bogdanovic, Okongwu. So quite a bit different than what you see in the ownership marks. But sifting between those pay-up point guards, I think is going to be one of the more difficult decision points of the day. Because you're going to see Steph and Dame and Trey and Maxey all looking pretty darn similar to each other. But again, we need the news. We do not have a Houston injury report. We do not have an Atlanta Hawks injury report. This will be a little bit more difficult to truly break down. All right, guys. First of all, hit that like button if you're here. Second of all, I got the banner on the top of the screen that says, try your first week of Portfolio EV free. You guys should absolutely do that. If you haven't signed up at OddsShopper Portfolio EV before, there's a link in the description. You click it, you sign up, you get a week free. We take a market-based approach to beating sportsbooks and pick'em sites. We give out all of the plays that we have with expected win rates, expected value rates. You can shop around to all the different books and pick'em sites. We've got parlay builders and odds boost calculators, odds screens, advanced data, all that stuff. It's all there for you. And you could test it out for 7 days for no cost. To me, this is the new way. This is the new cash game. If you're trying to like build a bankroll, maintain through some swings, take some shots at some large field contests with payouts, it's not like playing heads up or head-to-heads and double ups and 50-50s anymore. My recommendation would be to use the Portfolio EV tool as your cash games and then fire away on the DFS side. So if you want to do that, if you want to get started, the link is in the description. All right, we're through the first two 7:30 starts. Now we move it on to the two 10 o'clock starts. The Utah Jazz are 11-point underdogs in Golden State, 230 total. Now, 1, the Jazz played yesterday, so we don't know who's going to be playing for them. 2, they've had people in and out of the lineup like crazy. Walker Kessler didn't play yesterday. John Collins didn't play yesterday. Svi Mykhailiuk didn't play yesterday. I don't know who's playing here, but I can tell you this much. I projected Markkanen in. I projected Kessler in. I projected John Collins in. I did not project Jordan Clarkson in, who I would assume doesn't play the back-to-back. Either way, the line is 11. I've got it at 6.5, which leads me to believe that most of those guys that I just mentioned are not actually playing for Utah today. Now, if everybody is in, I think Isaiah Collier looks the best. I legitimately don't even think that we could talk about this team right now. Because, like, who knows if Markkanen's going to play this back-to-back. He has played back-to-backs this year. He's missed a few as well. I don't expect him to play. Why would he? But does Kessler play? I don't know. Because if he doesn't, then $4,100 Drew Eubanks looks great. If Kessler does play, then you don't have that value at all for Drew Eubanks. Does Colin Sexton play this back-to-back? If not, that makes Collier look better. It makes Keontae George look better. It probably makes Elijah Harkless look better. Depending on who's starting at the wing. Is it Svi? Is it Bryce Sensabaugh? I don't know. This team is impossible to break down right now at 9:30 in the morning. We need their injury report, and we're probably not getting that until, at best, 2:30, most likely 3:30. Ay, guys. Tough. This is a tough one. This is a tough one to break down. I think Isaiah Collier is going to look like a good play today. Kind of no matter what happens other than him being ruled out. Drew Eubanks will look like a really good play if Walker Kessler gets ruled out. But that's sort of all that we could lead ourselves into right now. Paul asked, did Clarkson play yesterday? Yes. Now, the Golden State side is a lot easier to talk about because we do have their injury report. And it's simple. No Draymond, no Kuminga, and that's it. And for once, we're actually getting ownership to Golden State. All it takes is a 4-game slate against a crap team. We've got 20% ownership coming into Steph Curry. And I can tell you right now, based on my optimal and boom, he looks better than Maxey. He looks better than Trae Young. I agree with that ownership on Steph. 8,800, target score 45. Looks good. Paul, there's absolutely no way anybody thought saying Ime Udoka was the best coach in the NBA was a weird take. That's like a common perception. I mean, I don't think he's number one, but like, it's arguable. I don't know who would argue with you. And obviously, YouTube chat will not be your best barometer. Now we're getting other ownership into Golden State. Steph isn't the highest owned guy at 22%. Well, yeah, Paul, that's because the consensus is that it's Spo. We're also getting 22% ownership into Moses Moody. And we're getting just shy of 30% ownership to Brandon Podziemski, who is 3,900, point guard, shooting guard eligible. And looks like he deserves that ownership. I agree with the Moody ownership too. He's also 3,900, but he's shooting guard, small forward eligible. Now, minutes are always going to be at least a little weird for Golden State. The rhyme and reason of Steve Kerr always feels a little bit weird. We got 24 minutes out of Podziemski last game. I gave him 22. I still think he looks good. Moses Moody played 21 last time out, but the previous 4 games were 25, 26, 32, and 29. Now, 3 of them didn't have Podziemski. I went 23 to Moody. He looks like my second best option behind Curry. Wiggins at 15 makes sense to me. I mean, he's one of the only guys that does play 30 minutes a night. I got him 17% optimal, 36% boom, 15% owned. I'd argue Wiggins is under-owned. I think you can make a case that Steph and Wiggins are both either right at or slightly under-owned. Moody is right where he should be. Podziemski's slightly high. And then I think you can get a little bit of Buddy Hield at 4,700. I think you could get a little bit of Guy Santos at 4,100. Small forward, power forward eligibility. I think it gets tricky after that. Trace Jackson Davis's minutes are a disaster right now. I don't know how you confidently play him. Shooter's just bad. I don't know how you want that. You're more likely to want to go to Quentin Post, who's actually 6% owned, which is the same as Buddy Hield. Post has sort of taken up this role as the backup center now. 3,400 center only, shoot the rock, fantasy point per minute. I mean, if you're going to take a value center, probably looks a little bit better than like Adam Bona as of right now. So I like the Golden State side. And I would rank it Steph, Moody, Wiggins, Pajemski, and then you could roll the dice. Probably post. All right, let me hit you guys with the schedule for the rest of the day. Very easy. Thought I had it already pulled up. Clearly don't. Great job there, Josh. Alrighty, we've got the NFL Strategy Show coming up next. Laffy and Ben breaking down the pigskin. Only one game left to go. We need a miracle here, folks. I need a Travis Kelce Super Bowl MVP ticket. I bet it at 42-1. So need Travis Kelce to win the Super Bowl MVP. 2 touchdowns. Get him like 8 catches. Retire after the game. Give him a narrative award. NHL Strategy Show coming up at 2. And then myself and DK will be on at 5:30 for the deeper dive. We'll go for an hour. And then Bellman and Eric will be on live before lock from 6:30 to 7:30. No playback tonight because we just get the first 2 games. We don't have any news coming up at 10. We won't have playback tonight. So that is what we've got going on for the rest of the day. This is what we've got going on in the final game of the slate. That would be the Milwaukee Bucks, 6.5 point favorites in Portland, 230 point total. Bucks are on a back-to-back. We don't know their injury report. They were missing some bodies yesterday. Bobby Portis was out for personal reasons. He also missed the previous game. I've got him in for right now. AJ Green has missed the previous 4 games. I have him in right now, and I'm just going to assume everybody else plays. Damian Lillard is currently projected for 43% ownership at 8,700. I think that's way too high, given the ownership on Trey, which honestly will bring down Dame later, now that I remember that Trey was at 1. But Dame looks slightly worse than Steph. I'd argue slightly better than Maxey and Trey, but the extreme ownership difference for these guys, they should all be relatively close. I like the lowest owned guy the most. Now, 35% ownership to Giannis, on the other hand. 11.7 power forward center ownership or eligibility. Yeah, he deserves that. I got him 24% optimal. 53% boom, which means his target score is below his projection. He scores 57.5 fantasy points today, and you're going to be okay. I want to get to Giannis as the pay up. He's very clearly the best pay up to me. I think Brook Lopez is a little bit under-owned. His minutes have been up lately. Maybe we get Portis out again. You feel even better about it at that point. But I went 33 minutes to Brolo, 5,700. You need 32 fantasy points out of him. I like that at 10% ownership. Gary Trent's getting 10% ownership. That seems about right. If Portis is in 5,800, probably should be around 10% owned. But I'm looking at Milwaukee for the main 2 guys of Giannis and Dame. But if Dame is chalk, there are very easy ways to pivot off of that. Depending on your personal cup of tea, there's a point guard in the other 3 games, whether it's Maxey, whether it's Trey, whether it's Steph. If you don't like Dame's ownership, you have natural ways to go to a different guy. And I would recommend it. But Giannis, clearly the dude to pay up for. Getting to the rest of Milwaukee is always just pretty gross. And I didn't project Chris Middleton in, by the way. Not expecting him to be playing the back-to-back here. Which could create a little bit of value for someone like Taurean Prince, but he's Taurean Prince, you know? Final team to talk about, the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, we do have their injury report. Q-Tag, DeAndre Ayton. Q-Tag, Ryan Rupert. Now, Ayton has missed the previous 3 games. So, obviously, we have no idea what to do there. If he's in, He's 15% owned, and he looks like he should probably be 15 to 20. It's kind of scary. If he's out, I assume we get Donovan Clingan starting. He'll look okay. I would assume we'd get Time Lord backing him up. He'd look okay. Both of those guys would be very quality point per dollar options. Whether or not they're really interesting to have, I could go either direction. The best play for Portland, and the guy that's getting the most ownership, is 30% owned Anthony Simons. I actually have him 30% optimal, 53% boom, which means his target score is below his projection. I have Simons as my number 2 play of the day, only behind Ricky Council. You know, he's starting. I like that. I like the starting role for Simons without having Sharp and Henderson starting alongside of him. That, to me, I really like that. It's even better for Simons if DeAndre Ayton isn't in, because there's a lot less offense coming out of Clingan or Time Lord. But for Simons, he's pretty clearly the best Portland option. I think the second best option is probably Ayton if he's in. And then I would want a bunch of Toumani Camara. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's a good enough per minute guy at 0.8 fantasy points per minute. He's 5,600. It's the perfect position. You only need 31.5, but he's barely owned. You get great flexibility. The minutes are there. I got him 18% optimal. I mean, I think he should be 20% owned, and he's 6. Like, Denny's 13. Now, Denny's a way better per minute guy, but he's also $1,600 more expensive. I think Denny is less optimal than Kamara. Keep that in mind. I think Jeremy Grant is underowned at 5%. I like this Portland side. I mean, think about Shaedon Sharpe. Now, maybe 26 minutes is too high for Shaedon Sharpe. Maybe you want to cut that down. But even at 24 minutes, he'd look underowned. At 26, I have him 17% optimal with a 30% chance of scoring 30 fantasy points. He's 5% owned. Portland is the team that I like the most here in terms of being contrarian and getting exposure to late games for swaps. Because maybe we don't know what's going on for Utah or Milwaukee or Golden State by the time we get there. But I don't mind having a big stand on Shaedon Sharpe, on Jeremy Grant, on Toumani Camara. Christian, you're definitely right about Grant, and I think that he is going to move at this deadline. Simon Sharp Scoot's an interesting conversation. I would probably trade the one that I thought I could get the most for, honestly. I mean, I've been hearing the conversation a lot on the Dunked On podcast. The guy that Portland really needs to trade is Toumani Camara if they want to try to get better assets. But I don't know if they'll do that. They probably won't. That's not a typical move, but he would be the guy they should trade. All right, let's sum it up. Here's the value. Ricky Council. No, you can barely see that on the screen. Hold on. There we go. Too big. There we go. Nope, still too big. There we go. Ricky Council, Anthony Simons, Giannis, Kelly Oubre, Amin Thompson, Steph Curry, Dame, Ayton, Maxey, Şengün. I mean, that's how you could see it right there. Maxey, Dame, Steph. Those are all the same play, basically. 18, 19, 20% optimal, 42, 44, 44% boom. We see what we got here. Top 10s are already out on my Twitter if you want to see them for DraftKings and FanDuel. Contenders will be out. I'll record the Contenders video itself right now. This show will be up on our podcast feed in the next half hour or so. And then we got our shows later tonight. But NFL Strategy Show at 10. If you want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl and probably the games over the weekend with Lofty and Ben, you guys can do that. Thank you guys for being here. Easy one today. Only 4 games. We're going to be in and out pretty quick. Good luck, everybody. Have some fun today. Enjoy your Tuesday. I'll talk to you guys later.